Rivalries are no doubt common in sports as they get competitive, but that really isn't the case when the media is involved. So what exactly led to not only Max Verstappen, but the entire Red Bull team refusing to talk to the news channel? Well, the answer lies in Austin. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the boss of Sky Sports F1 trying to reconcile with Red Bull. So stay tuned. First off, Sky Sports F1 director will visit Red Bull factory for reconciliation. Billy McGinty, the Sky Sports F1 director, is prepping for a trip to the Red Bull factory in Milton Keynes very soon. This, of course, came after both sides made the decision to draw a line under the fallout. Sky Sports F1 wasn't allowed to interview Red Bull's leading figures and its drivers after the F1 team decided to boycott them during the Mexico City Grand Prix. Now, Sky was still able to broadcast the collective media interviews by the likes of Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen, but the energy drink outfit refused to have their usual exclusive interviews with the drivers or the team boss, Christian Horner. The outrage that resulted in Max Verstappen and the entire Red Bull team snubbing Sky Network and its sister channels, Sky Germany and Sky Italia, happened because of comments made by Ted Kravitz, a pit lane reporter, at the preceding round in Austin. Secondly, the fallout due to comments by Ted Kravitz. After the United States Grand Prix on his own show called Ted's Notebook, he said that Lewis Hamilton was robbed of a would-be record-breaking 8th world title after a controversial finish during the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in 2021. According to inside reports at Red Bull, Kravitz's comments were described as the straw that broke the camel's back. During the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, it looked like Lewis Hamilton was cruising to a record 8 world titles with only 5 laps left, but the deployment of a safety car following a harmless crash by Williams driver Nicholas Latifi allowed Verstappen to go into the pits and change his tires and then catch up to Hamilton again. When the safety car was finally removed, only 1 lap was remaining, and Verstappen was right behind the Brit's rear end with a fresh set of soft tires. Hamilton, on the other hand, had tires that were 44 laps old by the time he went across the starting line, which basically made him a sitting duck. So Verstappen managed to pass him within a few corners, resulting in his controversial Grand Prix victory and maiden World Championship. Now Verstappen says that he felt disrespected by Sky. After breaking the world record for the most wins in an F1 season, Verstappen weighed in on the argument, revealing that he didn't want to speak to Sky because he felt disrespected by the broadcaster. He said that it had nothing to do with this weekend, but rather the entire year. There has constantly been digging and being disrespectful, particularly by a single person, and at one point, he decided that it was enough and refused to accept it. He said that the atmosphere on social media is toxic and that this way, you only make it worse. While referring to the person who he said was disrespectful, Verstappen said that since he kept disrespecting him, he'd reached a point where he just couldn't tolerate it anymore, so he decided to stop answering them. After the reconciliation, though, Red Bull has revealed that it plans to start accepting interviews with Sky Sports again. From the Sao Paulo Grand Prix this weekend, Christian Horner said in Mexico that they took a break from Sky for that race because there were some derogatory comments made. He said that Max was unhappy and the team was also upset, so they decided to stand together as a team. He also added that Sky wouldn't have been harmed by them laying down a marker. Next up, Horner called some of Sky's reporting sensationalist. Horner also called out some of the reporting as sensationalist and unbalanced. He said that some of the commentary was fair, but some pieces were sensationalist and made claims like they had robbed anyone of the championship, like what was said in Austin. He said that it was taking it too far, and it wasn't fair, impartial, or balanced. Horner ended the interview by saying that they'd said their piece, and that they would go back to normal starting from the next race. Red Bull's boycott of Sky seemed like a one-and-done deal, with them planning to allow Sky back in for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix in Brazil. But Sky has been making an effort to properly reconcile with the World Championship team, with Billy McGinty heading to Milton Keynes to apologize for the comments from Sky. Reportedly, both Sky Sports managing director Jonathan Licht and McGinty had contacted Red Bull soon after Mexico, and luckily, both sides are willing to move on from the argument. Lastly, Sergio Perez was teased by Mercedes' George Russell. During interview, Mercedes driver George Russell teased Verstappen's teammate Sergio Perez about the boycott during Formula One's launch party of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. While Perez was being interviewed by the Sky commentator David Croft, Russell interrupted him and asked if Sky had permission to talk with Red Bull. Perez answered by saying that yes, he was allowed tonight and that he had no special permission, adding, "Don't start on me." When Croft asked him if he was allowed to answer, he said as a joke that they are not here, referencing his Red Bull team. According to a report by Sportsmail, Horner will be taking part in Sky's exclusive coverage of the action this weekend in Brazil, and the team boss will also sit down with Kravitz in Brazil for conversation. Both Red Bull and Sky have recently extended their TV rights deal for Formula One up till 2020. Now moving on to how Sky Sports' disrespectful behavior led Max Verstappen's boycott. First up, Max is refusing to speak to Sky Sports. We all know that Max is refusing to speak to Sky Sports because of their disrespectful behavior. But to understand his behavior properly, we'll have to go into detail about what exactly happened and what the driver's thoughts were about it. The 25-year-old said that he wouldn't tolerate the behavior anymore, and he delivered on his own words. Reporters right now are scrambling to get to Max. After all, he is the first driver to ever get 14 wins in a calendar F1 season. Talk about writing history. Max will no doubt be remembered for this. And if news channels have one job, it's to get a frontline view of history in the making. Sky Sports was, of course, no exception to this, and they were desperate to get some content. But much to their disappointment, they were met with a stonewall. What exactly was the stonewall? Well, the man in question and his team's refusal to talk to them. It is obvious that the racer has taken offense to the small digs and comments made towards him throughout the season by Ted Kravitz. Following up, Max explains why he felt like they were disrespectful toward him. After the round in Austin, the reporter in his Ted's Notebook show commented on how Lewis Hamilton was robbed of the 2021 Formula One title. He was, of course, referring to the controversial Abu Dhabi finale. Max, when talking about this, said that it had nothing to do with the weekend. And this wasn't the only offending thing the reporter had said. Throughout the whole season, the 25-year-old felt like that Sky Sports had constantly been digging at him and being disrespectful. But of course, Ted in particular was on the top of the list. Then at one point, he just had enough and refused to be treated like that. He said that it wasn't good to try and live in the past, and eventually, everyone had to move on. Social media has always been a very toxic place, and nowadays, it's at its peak. But being like that constantly and disrespecting people for no reason just makes it so much worse than it needs to be. Last but not least, his teammates and boss were very supportive of him. The Flying Dutchman stated that just because they were a news channel, if they were intent on being disrespectful towards him, it didn't mean that he was going to tolerate them, so he had taken the decision to stop answering altogether. His teammates weren't the only ones respecting his decision and following his example. Christian Horner also refused to acknowledge Sky Sports on Sunday. He mentioned that Max was particularly annoyed at the description of the 2021 season finale. He said that making claims like the championship being robbed was extremely unfair and disrespectful, so it was understandable that the 25-year-old was so upset over it. Christian also mentioned that as a team, they were all there to support him no matter what, and all of them were just as upset about the comment, and they collectively took the decision. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think about Sky Sports and Max Verstappen's boycott of the broadcaster? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.